So today we're prepping for some Vance and Hines slip-ons to replace the stock exhausts. So sorry about the camera work, doing the best I can. So just getting ready to start to pull off the existing mufflers so that I can install the slip-ons. I'll try and film as much of this as I can and let you know how it goes. One of the hardest parts for this is going to be removing a couple of bolts that are right down here, 3/8 inch, and it's really hard to get a hold of. But that's one of the first things that I'm going to have to try and tackle here. So I highly recommend that you use a small wrench because there's no room down there. Oh my goodness. Is this what I've been waiting for? I think it is. I think this could be the slip-ons. The driver saw me filming and he's laughing at me. But this is it. I'll show you the box in a minute. Well, the driver from UPS thought it was funny as heck, but they're here. So I'm going to open them up here in just a second and show you what they looks like. So here are the slip-ons. It's got the heat shields and a slip-on for each. Bag of hardware, which is wonderful. And of course, you have your instructions. So we'll be starting the installation process here before long. Sorry if the camera works a little shaky. Don't mean for it to be. Alright, these are the little 3/8 inch bolts that are hidden behind the mufflers, and they are a pain to get to because they're all the way back down under here and kind of wrapped around. So the best thing you can do is be patient. Get the smallest little wrench you got, find something to sit on like a stool, and just work those bolts out. They turn about 1/8 of an inch, maybe not even 1/4 of an inch at a time. And the best way I found to do it was get it as loose as you can with the wrench, because the wrench really doesn't want to fit back in here. As you can see, oh, it's tight. So to get it down in there, you got to come from the side, use two hands, put one hand to put it into on the bolt and turn the other one just as much as you can. And it ain't much, I'll tell you. But it's about 20 minutes worth of work, maybe. Just taking your time, doing it slow, because you don't want to mess that up. Alright folks, so we've gone ahead and done our next step in the process, and that was basically to loosen up these hose clamps, top and bottom. Trying to get those loose. They're not going to slide off. You just got to loosen them to get it off. And then you've got a bolt right here, and there's a bolt right here. Can I see this? Sorry for the camera work. Yeah, where it's down here. Okay, so you loosen those two up, and then you might have to use some WD-40 or some penetrating oil or something, because sometimes these seize up right here. So we're going to put a little oil on them, let them soak a little bit, and then try and maneuver those off of there. So it's not been too hard so far, so I'm sure, like anything else, I'm going to run into a problem somewhere along the line. As promised, trying to film this and do it all by myself, so forgive the camera work. But basically what you do is you should just rock this back and forth. Just give it a little backwards pressure. And you're going to see it's eventually going to start to slide out of there. And there we are. Just like that. So that one's out. And I've got one more to do. Alright. Okay folks, so we've got them both off. Not too difficult. Actually, it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Knock on wood that we don't have any problems. So just wiped it down a little bit, and looking pretty good so far. Here's the stock mufflers. So they weren't stuck on too bad. I did use some WD-40 to loosen them up. And the first time you try and pull them off, you're like, oh, is this really going to work? In actuality, it will. Okay, so when we last left off, we were talking about putting everything back together. And hopefully not running into any issues. Well, I tell you what, we've got a small issue. So the way they've got these designed is that under here, you need to put a nut and a washer, and then put one of these bolts through it. Well, guess what? There is no room to do that, especially when it's on the bike. So, tried super gluing the nut and washer in place on the inside. Of course, that's not holding good to the chrome. So then I went and got some what was it? The silicone gasket sealer, and I coated the nut and the bolt with that, and then I screwed the nuts down on them, left them overnight. Of course, they got some gunk on them. I'll clean that up, and the gasket sealer basically hardened overnight. So they're holding the nuts and bolts in place fairly decently. We're going to have to see what happens when we start screwing everything back in. But Vance and Hines should really consider charging $50 more and spot welding the nuts and bolts in place so that you don't have to have 3 hands and a monkey trying to help you, because there is just no room to do this adequately. I've seen other people going through the same problem. I was afraid that, getting them off would be the problem. That's not been the case. It's all about getting them back on, because the stock mufflers, I'll do a shot of those, basically have a nut hole, something, whatever you want to call it, embedded into the actual muffler. We're going to go get a shot of that right now. Okay, so here's a shot of the stock mufflers, and as you can see, Harley's got, basically where the bolt screws into the muffler housing. It's basically a threaded device there, so you don't have to worry about nuts and washers or any of that. These just bolt right on. You put a bolt through, bang, you're good. So that makes a world of difference when you're trying to put these on in close quarters, small hands, no room, etc. Trying to hold the nuts and washers in place, stand on your head to get them where they need to be. So, Vance and Hines, if you watch this, spend the extra money, spot weld those bolts or those nuts and washers where they need to be. You're going to take your product from probably a 3-star product, because I think it's good. We're going to find out, but the installation, man, this is just insane. Spot weld those in place. It'll make installation a breeze, and then people just love your product. Okay, so hopefully you can see this pretty good. They are fitted in, and I know they're dirty, and all these dang little bolts are in. That is a PETA, truly. So expect that to take some time. Even gluing those nuts on and everything, and getting it lined up, the screw breaks the seal on the glue or whatever you put in there. So if I had to do this again, I would mock it up, spot weld those nuts in place and the lock washers, and I could do that in less than an hour and stop trying to mess around with trying to get everything aligned where you can't put your hands. So it's a pain, but they're basically on. Tighten them up now, going to put the heat shields where they need to be and give them a quick cleaning. Get all the dirt and grime off from the install. Okay, so they are installed. Everything's tightened up, they've been cleaned up, they're looking pretty good. And I'm sorry if this is a little bit in shadow, but the sun's out and it is hot, but they do look excellent. Let's see what they sound like. Well, sounds a lot better than the stock exhaust, that's for sure. And for, I don't know, $400 upgrade, it worked out pretty good. So, pretty happy with it. But Vance and Hines does need to do something about that one plate. You know, I mean, they could do something. Weld those nuts in place, make it a lot easier. They could also make it so there's cutouts in that muffler frame for where the bolts go, so the bolts slide into the side and then you nut them on the other end. There's all kinds of engineering things you could come up with. I didn't want to chop them up because they were brand new, but if I had to do it over again, I might modify it for an easy install, because there's just no sense in 4 screws, or excuse me, 6. The 2 on the top, I guess it is, and the 4 on the bottom. Taking so long, be so difficult to do this when, you know, engineering could figure out a quick and dirty way to do it. Let me fire it up.